Welcome, Kingdom Warriors. We are Relentless Glory, here to relentlessly provide you with motivation, education, and of course, relentlessly be praising God. I'm Coach Jamie, and this is Coach Liv.
Welcome back, Kingdom Warriors. Coach Liv here.
And I am Coach Jamie.
And
And
we
we
are
are
Relentless Glory.
Relentless Glory.
One day.
I
So
think there's
today we're going to talk about the gifts, the unique gifts of God. And Jamie, I would love for you to just go into these gifts and how, God is the only way that you can truly get them.
this is a new concept for me. And one thing that Coach Liv and I don't think we emphasize this enough. Like we're not standing up here to act like the experts about the Bible and that we know it all. Like we are imperfect people pursuing a perfect God. And so we are learning and growing every single day right along with you guys. And truly embracing and learning these gifts that God has for us that the world just isn't capable of giving us has been something that has been so fascinating to me. Um, and I think now that I'm aware of that, I'm more likely to notice it and receive it. And one in particular that I want to talk about is peace. I have never been a person who has been able to just find peace and calm in a situation. Like, even if sitting outside on my balcony or near water where there's no wind, there's no sound, like everything being quiet, that's usually when my brain is going 600 miles a minute, right? Like, being able to sit and rest and be in the moment and not be stressing about something of what I should be doing, what I could be doing before, that's always been me. And recently, I've really started to experience peace. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been going my whole life without this. Like, whether life is hard or not, like, there's moments where I'm just like, huh, okay. And then I'm just not thinking anything. And I'm just good. Like, I almost don't even know how to describe it. Like, I'm not happy. I'm not sad, but I'm just good. Like, I'm not worried. I'm not second guessing anything. Like, I'm just sitting there and I'm good. And it's like the waters have calmed, right? And it's such a cool feeling. And I really have to say it's because I've fully just started to surrender and let God take over, like death of myself and what I think I'm supposed to become, or completing and achieving, and what I think that is the right thing for me to do, and why I want something. When I start to give like the death to the kingdom of me and just focus on like how I'm best showing up and representing God and just trusting that, holy cow, like the tension is gone. And there's even times where like I'm like, is it okay that I'm not worried about anything right now? Like, is that normal to not be worried? Is it okay I'm not thinking about anything? Is it all right that like I'm just here and I love it? And I almost like it's a new feeling, but peace would definitely be one of mine. Yeah. Liv, what's one of yours?
Peace is a really good one. I'm gonna actually go with self-control. Self-control being in so many different aspects, but I think it helps people that have battled with addictions of any kind. When you truly give those things to God and help, like have him help you through those, you're able to develop a higher level of self-control when you really truly acknowledge that it might be only you that knows, but it's really God that knows as well. And he's
Mm-hmm.
watching you. Um, when you, because he's always there anyway. I think that helps with that self-control. But people have constantly asked me, they're like, how do you live a sober lifestyle? Asked me that multiple different types of people. I'm like, Jesus. Like, Oh, I can't do that. And that's a really big self-control thing. And there's also different scriptures, even when it comes to eating food, it talks about those who I forget which one it was, but it's talking about controlling the things that you eat, not, you know, and because I'm telling you, when you go from one thing and then you go to another thing, that's usually what it is. It's usually a transition, like you
Yeah.
replace something with something else.
Replace a
Uh,
habit with a habit, an addiction with an addiction.
mhm, mhm. Um, and instead, you really have to replace things with God, and it's okay. That's where grace comes in. I think that's where His grace comes in. But it's a gift on a whole nother level. Is self control. I'm great. I'm truly grateful for it.
What I think is super cool though too, and I'll be interested to hear if you agree, is how you mentioned self-control, but yet God gives us free will.
Mhm.
So separating those two, the way that I would interpret it is he's giving us the free choice to choose him or not. And when we choose him, that's where we genuinely can find the gift of that self-control because we're not really in control. We're letting him be in control.
And he builds up your muscles too. Like you become so much stronger with him. What's another one of yours?
Um, as you were talking, this dawned on me, um, in a different way than what I was initially going to go. Wisdom, the gift of wisdom. And I know we talked about it in the other episode, but about like Solomon asking God for wisdom and not for power, not for money, for wisdom. Like, how am I going to rule this entire land? Like, I need wisdom, God. And it's interesting because like even within like my coaching business or when I'm out and about talking and I'm like doing mentorship with my faith and fitness group that I volunteer and I run and all of that type of stuff, like all of the leadership skills I've had, like I didn't really realize it until this moment that like, well, I knew to an extent because I was intentional about it. Like before I get on a coaching call, like I intentionally leave anything back to back. So I have time to pray before I go into the call. And I'm like, God, whether this person is a Christian or not, on my coaching call, I'm like, God, please lead this call into what it's going to be, like what it's supposed to be. Like, lead me down the path that I'm supposed to go with this person that's best going to serve them. Please help me with the wisdom of how to respond to these situations that I may not know how to do. And girl, when I tell you, there are times that I get off a coaching call and I literally feel like I just chugged 6 Red Bulls and I was like, I don't even know where that information came from. Don't get me wrong. I'm a nerd. I love reading. I love the way the brain works. I love psychology. I watch a lot of podcasts and listen to a lot of books. But I don't just sit here and meticulously study a structure in a program. So the fact that all of this flows out and the person is receiving it for what it's meant to be, that ain't me, that's God. That is the wisdom of God coming out. Like my coaching, but I'm not coaching you. God's coaching through me. So I would have to say wisdom is a big one.
Patience is another one for me too. And I found this when I was feeding my dog. So sometimes I will put together a nice little steak and egg breakfast for him and I mix it with their food. I buy them Rachel Ray and I cut up the steak and this is like $70 steak. Okay, guys.
He did this before she was leaving them to come visit me.
These is a really nice steak. I don't pay that much for it, but it's really nice steak. And then
The
I put a
value is
raw
the
egg
value,
in it,
girl. Own it.
mix it up, mix it all up. And my dog Cuervo, he's constantly like coming around, like trying to see what's coming, like because he knows. And I tell him, I'm like, it takes a little longer to get a better blessing. It's not just being poured in like usual. And it reminds me so much about the things that God does for you that you might be waiting, and not to grow weary in doing good, that scripture has been on my heart for a long time now. And to also just understand that God's got a lot of the situations for you. If you're doing faith without works is dead. If you're doing a work, if you're constantly like showing up and you know what you should be doing, and you ask God for patience, he will give you a reason to be patient. But even in making the food for my dogs, I realize that a blessing takes a little longer when it's better.
I
So
will have to say, listen, I need to pray. I mean, I do probably not enough, but I pray quite a bit for patience. But Coach Liv has definitely learned how to receive that gift. And I am so grateful that God has put her in my life, because she is my gift of patience. Because I'll be like freaking out. And then she'll be like, Jamie, what are you worried about? Like, why are you stressing out by now? Like, it is fine. Like, you are fine. And actually, real quick side note, because I always go on my tangents. Um, it made me think of it when you were sharing that example. Guys, this whole brand on Relentless Glory literally happened one day in January where I was having an awful day and I was bawling my eyes out, and I randomly reached out to them. I was like, dude, we need to talk. And I don't know why, but I'm like, can we collab on something? But I don't want it to be about business necessarily. And like everything took off. And so we ended up like launching everything. It was like April 1st. And then it was crazy because I think it was in June. I was scrolling through like deep into my Instagram feed because I didn't feel like coming up with content that day for my personal page. And I found a post back from when I first ever would have met her, which was through social media. I was living in Connecticut at the time, had some connections where I ended up going out on a boat that they let me drive. The name of the boat was Relentless. And in that post that I had used back at that time, so this was 2 years ago, never physically met this woman in my life, had only talked to her one time because I was on her podcast. I'm getting this picture on a boat, and or next to this boat that says Relentless, and then I'm writing out this paragraph and talking about something with relentlessly. Guys, I don't ever use the word relentless, and probably up until that point, I'd never really heard or done anything with the word relentless. This woman comes into my life. She comes up with the word relentless for Relentless Glory, and I'm like, what? That was 2 years ago. Like, this seed was planted and God was at work for 2 years and we didn't even know it. We didn't even know it. And this whole time, like, I'm like, I feel like my heart has been yearning for something, needing somebody like in my life to do God's work with. And then she pops up and that's the name of it. Like, what? Patience. Boom.
and I'll be honest, I don't even use the word relentless very often either.
When we tell you, like, guys, not even kidding, the logo, the colors, the name, the mission statement, the purpose, it was knocked out in like 20 minutes. We prayed over it before we started and boom. So patience, godly wisdom.
Yeah, this is only the beginning. And I'm so, I was looking at our feed the other day. This is another thing. Because you never know what God's creating. But I was looking at our TikTok and I was just like, oh my goodness. God is creating something so amazing. Like, because we just post, like we just, okay, what's the thing gonna be for the day? But we don't ever like really like look back and consume the content. And so I started like looking through what God has been doing through us. And I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like, we talk about so many different things.
We're like, oh, this isn't moving. We're not getting enough followers. Not enough people are watching our content. But all of this is building. Like, it's patience.
The testimonials that we get, the raw testimonials we get, because it's really about bringing people to Jesus and keeping God on the minds of people in the right way when times go hard. And we won't always see what he's doing. So I think it's so important for us to have that patience, because he does moves. We just got to follow. We have to be obedient. But yeah, that's one of the things. What's another one for you?
Joy. That's another one I've been feeling a lot lately. And one quick note too that I want to mention is like these gifts are like this, these are the spirit of God in you. Because like the self-control, the wisdom, like that's not the world that gives you that. The world gives you problems. The world gives you this, but it takes God to help you consume the wisdom in the situation, to feel the peace in the situation, to gain self-control on how to respond in a situation, right? And to be at peace with the situation. But joy, again, that overwhelming feeling of just like like I've always told everybody this. If there's anything that makes me happier on the freaking planet, it is the sunrise. I love the start to another morning. Mornings are my favorite. I get up super early, have my coffee and my Bible right before the sun is even up. So I am literally sitting there watching the just God's creation of another beautiful day starting, and I get to experience it. And like settling into that, like I'm not like a crazy emotional person, but it's literally like I wonder if people like when they watch me when I'm walking and running with my dog in the mornings, like because there's other people that are like on the same route that I am, and I have my headphones in and I'm listening to my worship music, and I'm like literally like throwing my head up and like tears are streaming down my face, and I'm just like I don't even care what today brings because like this is so overwhelming with how awesome I feel in a body that just is able to breathe and like yeah. Like even though again, like I could be so upset because something just went crazy wrong the day before, whatever. And it's like, okay, I can choose to sit here and fixate on all of the shit that's happening, or I can just be like, holy cow, look at those colors. God's not done with me yet because he woke me up today, and so that means something good's gonna happen. But right now, I feel really good, even if it sucks. And it's again this unexplainable feeling that you aren't gonna get from a text message from a potential love of your life or 600 million views on a video. Like it's not of that at all. No money in the world can feel how that feels.
I
What's yours?
agree because I was just on a walk right before we did this with my dogs, and it was just like the blue sky and the green, and I'm just like, this is so beautiful, and I'm listening to my Christian music, and I'm just like, um, Rest on Us was what I was listening to, and it's just like, this is such a great moment, like of just being in the presence of the Lord. And someone said this, they call nature God's living room, and I'm using that. Like, so being in God's living room and just being around the abundance of nature and just in the environment and watching how he takes care of the birds and the beavers and all of the other animals, and he takes care of us too. Yeah, there's so much joy in the natural. And yeah, I feel you. I feel you heavily on that one. Um Another one for me is modesty. And that came over time. but but it's like, you know what? I don't want to wear this because like there's certain times that I ask God what I should wear. I didn't think I'd be that person. I wear what I want to. But in certain situations, okay, what should I wear? And it's not like I don't know how to pick out clothes. But sometimes he just knows what's best, like how to best represent him and the message he's trying to bring through me. What about you? Like, do you feel anything when it comes to modesty?
Yeah. Um, that's a hard one for me because I just don't really think about it. Like, it's not that like I'm sucked into one way or the other. It just isn't really something that comes across my mind. But what was interesting when you said that is like, there are days where I get this inkling of like, okay, this is the type of event that I'm going to be like going to, or like even just, for instance, it was crazy. I used to, there was a client of mine, he's atheist, super, super, he looked like intimidating to a lot of people, like judging from the outside, but he was an emotional human being and just oh, I just loved working with him. And I swear I did not ever mean to do it because he knew where I stood with faith and how I was with my relationship with God, but I would never shove it down his throat. That's not my place. If he wants to ask questions, I'm happy to answer, but I'm not going to judge him one way or the other. Like I want him to find him on his terms. But I kid you not, there was 3 different calls that I was on with him, and I had a shirt on that said, God is dope, God first, whatever. And it was not intentional. But I'm like, it's really interesting that I chose to wear that today. And so like when you were talking about with that, but like with modesty, I don't know. I feel like my voice is what kind of screams louder than anything I could potentially wear. And so I think that like for me, learning modesty in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a cursing Christian, I think, but I've started cursing less.
Yeah. Oh, every other word used to be the F word for me. And I've gotten a lot better. Got a lot better.
I'm still a cursing Christian, but
Yeah. Um, yeah. I love this. This just has me feeling good. I love talking about these gifts. This is like talking about like the best Christmas present you ever got. These are all my best Christmas presents, and I got them all throughout the year. Didn't have to wait till Christmas. Um, yeah, I want you guys to think about that though, like what it is that you're seeking um in life, and if you just feel that even with all these things that you thought were going to bring you happiness, like really lean into that. And if you need help with this type of stuff, we would love to be able to help encourage you in the right direction to learn how to feel and experience these. Because guys, I've known of him since the day I was born, but I didn't actually have a relationship with him. And so like when I tell you probably it's the last year and a half of my life that I've genuinely started to actually feel and embrace these special gifts of God and not of the world, it's real. And life just keeps getting better and better because of it. So I want that. We want that for you guys so very much.
so yeah, definitely, look up some for yourself and let us know what are some of the gifts from God that you really truly appreciate. And again, if you ever want to get a little more from us, definitely consider joining our newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter. We will not spam you. But just to give you devotionals, uplift you, show you what we've got going on whenever we're dropping new merch. You definitely want to be a part of that community. And with all of that being said, go be relentless for the glory of God.
Bye guys, see you next time. Well, thanks for being here. Now go be relentless for the glory of God.